Just a quick note: if my Wi-Fi gets a little funky, we got a power outage, and it's crazy. In 2021, this is where we're at. But if the guy doesn't come around every half an hour with a little gas can and fill up the generator next to the telephone pole, my Wi-Fi goes down to like a 28.8 modem. So that's where we're at in 2021, where we are completely dependent upon a small generator next to a telephone pole. So hopefully they're going to spend $1 trillion on an infrastructure package. We can, maybe get a little bit more reliable internet access out where I'm at.
Well, I was surprised yesterday when we were on the phone and you were basically like predicting that the power was going to go off. Just I guess it was because there was lightning or thunder.
Yeah, shit. Where I'm at, every time it lightnings, the power is going to go off. And I saw one of those really close bolts, and I'm in my head going 1 Apple, 2 Apple, 3 Apple, 4 Apple. Oh, there goes the power. So, and then but yesterday was really bad. We had this like huge line of storms come through. And I'm getting like the weather updates from my dad because he checks the weather every 9 seconds because
that's right.
You got nothing else to do. And I'm like, oh, we're gonna lose power again. So then the storm goes through. I'm looking like, and I always got a tree I got to go cut down. Not cut down, I got to chop it up. Somehow I got lucky. I didn't have to chop up no trees today. But internet's out. Jump on my cellular, and I'm trying to get on the map to see the outage. The map wouldn't even load. And it was like, and then I got on like Twitter, and then other people are saying they couldn't get the map to load because the electric company was so overwhelmed with outages. Finally, I get like a newspaper site to load, and it says 600,000 people without power. Hour later, the map pops up, and it just looks like a Monet painting of color going across a couple counties. And I'm like, oh shit, we're not gonna have power for a while. And
wow.
Unfortunately, if the dude misses his little shift down there with this gas can, the whole area ends up losing out on some Wi-Fi. But that's living in 2021, man. First world problems.
For sure.
What do we got here?
Yeah, so here's some news that came out this morning. Reddit's raised $410 million in new funding. It's bumped their valuation up to $10 billion. And I just thought it'd be interesting to chat about. Reddit as a company, they've got some pretty interesting financials. And then the state of tech and your thoughts there, because I know you've got some pretty strong thoughts. But before we get going, James, a couple stats to run by you. So Reddit did 170 million in revenue in 2020. And in the first quarter or one of the quarters in 2021, they broke 100 million, which is 192% growth year over year. So yeah, the growth rate's pretty staggering. They've got ridiculous number of users, but what are your thoughts in general?
Staggering growth rate indeed, but I feel like for how big they are, it seems like they should be further ahead.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
like that. I hate saying this. Like times have just changed so much in 20 years looking at money, but what 200 million is not a lot of money no more. Not for Reddit's been around a long time, and that's too. Like at our companies, a lot of times we do a lot of large corporate stuff, and we'll get a call from somebody we never heard of, and we look them up, and they're like 1.5 billion. I'm like, and we do work all over the world. I think we got a pretty good grasp of industries and companies, and so I'm going to call you up and say, I had no idea this is a $1.5 billion company. So when you look at like the average revenue of some of the mid-sized companies now, it starts at $1 billion. So looking at 200 million, doesn't seem like a lot of money for Reddit. So yeah, I think the growth should be staggering if they're really now starting to try to monetize the site, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, rapid growth, but it's Reddit with like how many? Like 50 million users or something? Like
50 million daily actives and 430 million people who use it once a month.
Yeah, they should be doing that kind of growth, right? So, another one of those this is where you as a user has never been more valuable because
Yep.
it's the users that are making these places worth $10 billion. Um, without your content and you in existence, these people don't exist. But kind of, this is a really curious one for me because it's not like Facebook so much, where people are like, they're posting pictures of their families and here's my 4-year-old's birthday party with the unicorn that no one really gives a shit about. And Reddit's not really that, right? And I
Yeah.
always think about if and when it ever happens, if something happens to Section 230, would that not like decimate Reddit? Because
Oh, that's
isn't it?
interesting.
Yeah, because isn't it kind of like the wild west? So I mean, I know they moderate. I mean, I'm on Reddit. I know they do moderate, but you can't moderate 50 million people a day.
Yeah.
How does that affect if they actually end up responsible, right? So to me, it's like a touchy investment from that standpoint, because you could ride this thing to the moon, and then something could come down from Congress and just destroy it. And it would hurt Facebook too, right? But a lot of Facebook isn't conjecture and opinion, and a lot of it's just photos of people. And here's my bike ride today. Here's my vacation photo
Hmm.
on Instagram and stuff like that. Where Reddit's a lot of just text and opinions and thoughts. And in the back of my mind, it's like, well, where could this thing be in 3 or 5 years? Could we see the greatest upswing boom and the largest fall off a cliff we've ever seen? Because it's
Yeah. Yep.
it's this forum based, right? It's someone's journal or thoughts. It's, to me, it's interesting in an aspect. This is a big investment, right? And maybe they're hoping to just get in and get out, and they're going to time it. But maybe nothing ever happens with 230, and nothing ever happens. But in the back of my mind, from a risk standpoint, I think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. No, when I first read this, James, that's exactly where my mind went, which was, so Reddit's not profitable yet. I think they were expecting to be profitable in 2022. So what's that, next year? So if Reddit has plans to IPO, this could be really just a way for Fidelity Investments to get in at a decent valuation, IPO. Reddit plays in that same world as like the meme stock kind of stuff, and Robinhood, I know, popped a week after it IPO'd. So this could just be a way to get in and get out.
I think they think they might have to just get in before someone else gets in. I mean, I don't know what the contracts they have, and who knows. I don't know.
Right.
But it's one of those things that if you don't jump in, that everyone's looking at this thing. So you need. I mean, I've done that with investing in companies sometimes, small companies. They're looking to raise. They don't want to oversubscribe. They got this number they're trying to hit, and if you don't get in, it's everyone's got their eyes on it. So you blink, and then they hit 100%. Then they're not taking your funding.
Mm. Right.
And then by the time you get around, funding in the second round, it's like, well, I kind of missed out on a little bit of money there. So this is obviously much grander scale. But maybe they thought, yeah, I need to get in here now, otherwise someone else is going to muscle in, or this will help push them to IPO faster because maybe they see a window. Maybe there's some harbinger at Fidelity that's saying, look, this administration might do something towards Section 230. The 2022 elections, depending on how they go, could really change the genetic makeup of Congress, and that could affect Section 230. And who knows in 3-4 years what happens with the president's office. And you look at that turmoil in the political scene, depending on what happens, if someone does decide to come for 230, I think at some point both parties are going to come for it whenever it suits them best. And if you see that on the horizon, even if it's way out on the horizon, you're like, well, there's still billions to be made. We just got to push up that timeline. So my thought is maybe they're trying to push this thing along and try to get the IPO faster so they can get in, let this thing ride for a while, try to time it and get out before the shit hits the fan.
That's really interesting. Yep.
Just a thought. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I don't even like making predictions. I started looking at stuff and I'm like, well, 4 things might happen, and then I kind of assign like, you know, 10% of this happen, 10% chance this happens, and 25% chance this happens, and that's kind of how I look at investments a lot of times. I try to look at every scenario, and even then, you never get every scenario. Who the hell saw COVID coming?
Right.
Um, it's every economist that was going, or every YouTube economist and every Twitter economist, even some well-known economists. It's the crash is coming, the crash is coming, the recession, 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 depression, depression. It's like, yeah, dude, if you say it every year, it's eventually going to happen, and then you go, see, I'm right, and that's why I don't even like making predictions, because then the economy crashed last year, and they're like, see, and I'm like, yeah, but you've been saying the economy's going to crash for 7 years, but you never said it's going to be from a global pandemic.
Yeah, right.
But it's like, no, I was right. So it's like, I don't like making predictions in that sense. I just kind of like looking at all the stuff. Sometimes crazy stuff does happen, Kane, and if you make the right investment on the crazy stuff, the payout on that's sometimes pretty tremendous. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know the likelihood of that is happening, but there's certainly something that's on my mind that I'm going to watch.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. You touched on something earlier that I thought was interesting, and something that I have a stat for, which is why I'm raising it. But the idea that these platforms make their money through advertising, right? And the individual is valuable, or the user is valuable. And they really don't exist without the user, which is an interesting kind of relationship. They make money off the person that is the reason that the platform exists. But we're comparing it to Google Ads. So Google Ads is about 80% of Alphabet's revenue. And in 2020, it was about $150 billion. 150 billion in ad money. That equates to about the GDP of Ukraine, and it's a top 55 GDP in the world. So, yeah, just I guess spin on that for a second.
I mean, they're going to be, GDP wise top 50 in the world just from pimping ads to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's bonkers when you think about it. And again, you'd never been more valuable to a tech company. I don't know where the hell I saw, but it was talking about users actually getting paid to like be on Facebook, right? If they're making money off you as a person, should you start getting some money for that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, you do it on YouTube, right? If you create content, you get like 0.00000000000.2% per view or something like that. So if you get like 100 million views, I can go get like a double Whopper at Burger King. But they do give you something. Maybe that should be applied across the board, whether you're on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok. That in a way, you're more valuable than like shareholders. Or are you a shareholder? Should they give you some stock for if you stop creating content, they go out of business.
Yeah, right.
Like that's it. Because they're providing you like if I want a service and I got to spend $29 a month to use this service, like I'm gonna let you use it TikTok for free, but then I want to make money off you. But in a weird way, like you're paying them with your content, right? But they seem to be making a hell of a lot more off the content than let's face it, if they could make more money going the subscription route, they would have done it. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's true. It's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, all these like huge companies and their, massive valuations all comes down to their ability to amass a crowd and be able to sell targeted ads. That's it. And that's how we generate all this money today. So that's the most valuable you're ever going to be, man. Is
today. Yeah.
In fact, if you don't post on these websites, you ain't shit. You ain't no value to nothing.
So, that's true.
Hey, interesting to see. Man, that's crazy. 80% of the revenue is just from Google, anyways. 80%. When you think about them, you start thinking about tech, and you realize most of your money comes from just pimping ads.
Yeah.
Sounds more like a marketing advertising company than I think we I don't know how many people actually know that unless you're in the investing world, right? Do you really know that $150 billion of revenue comes from ads? But
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The thing I remember hearing it a long time ago, but like I believe that because Google has a ton of like startups and different things that or like moonshot brands that they keep working on. I don't think their success rate is that high, and so it always goes back to like, oh, their real core competence is these ads, and like how much value is that to society in the long run, you know?
I mean, there's some value to the corporation that has spent 150 billion.
Yeah.
You as a user, you think if Google's doing its job, they're going to serve you organically the best content. You shouldn't have to click on an ad. So to me, it's like sometimes counterproductive. It's if you are doing your job the best you can, then what I'm looking for should probably show up in the top 5 results. I shouldn't even need to click on an ad.
Yeah, great point.
But that's now, I think years ago, I want to say their, ad revenue is probably 85, 87% is what I heard. And you think about it, but we think of them as more of a tech company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like all the other stuff they do is only 20%. They've had a lot of failures, and a lot of their successes actually came from companies they bought.
Mm.
And you realize, all these companies we're talking about right now only thrive because there's hundreds of billions of dollars to be spent on online advertising.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it. You take the advertising, the consumer lifestyle out of it, and all this stuff collapses right now. It's one of those things that if you had to pivot and say, okay, find a new way to make money, what would you do?
Yeah.
Not looking so good. So
It's true.
but I mean, we'll see. I'm sure this is going to do well. It's another one of those that's the revenue's starting off slow and it's going to build up and everyone's going to get excited, and then we're going to see what happens. But
Yeah.
hopefully we come up back in a couple of years and we do another episode and say this was the smartest investment Fidelity ever did, or what the hell were they thinking? But
Yep.
We'll find out. But that's all I got for this one.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay.